Good morning, everyone. He said good morning and good evening and good afternoon and good night because we're again spread all over the planet, spanning all the time zones again. And poor John, who's having to run the stream at 3 o'clock in the morning for him. Welcome to Astrology 2.0, surfing into 2020. I have the whole gang here, and we're going to talk about what the fuck was that? Because we're going to open up with like, what the fuck was that over the last few weeks, and then we'll segue from there.
We lost Danny.
Yeah, and the midheaven here just reached Uranus. Zero. All right, so what the fuck was that? Right, Megan? Jules?
Yeah, well, it's been a bit of a Bardo moment where we're kind of in between everything. But today is a good day, being the new moon. Are we going back to not saying the I and the T word again?
There's more than I and T now. There's M and H.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, Gongsi Fachai to anyone who's celebrating. Today's the new moon and the new lunar year for a lot of Chinese people and Korean people. So I would say that this past month has been heavy, right? Everyone's been feeling it, whether it's been in their personal lives, if it's been in the public, it's been in the news. There's been scaremongering of all kinds, disease, war, whatever you want to call it. People have been on edge. And that's the basic energy. It was like everyone's on edge. Everyone doesn't know what to expect. It seems like there's something dark going on. And yet people want the survival skills are coming to the fore. Like, how are we going to survive? How is the world going to be beneficial in the long run? Like, that's the fear that most people had. I mean, if it wasn't weather related, if it wasn't like the fires in Australia, if it wasn't like strange apocalyptic themed events, then it was happening in people's personal lives as well, in their professional lives. And a lot has been happening, whether it's been health or it's been global issues. People have been rocked one way or another to what's been going on. So, yeah, I've just been reading the comments. You betcha. Oh, yeah. Shit blowing up. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, we can work with these energies. That's the thing. That's why we do astrology, is because these energies, we see them coming and we can work with them. We can work out how they are affecting us on any level and try and work with them. So they give us a heads up, something's going to happen. We don't really know what exactly, but we can get the timing of it. We can see the energy of it. We can do our best with it, and we can share that information. So I think what we're going through is a deep cathartic evolution of change.
It's almost like everyone's cleaning out the trash, and I think Zero made a really good point in the chat, saying, like, especially today, being the new moon in Aquarius, it feels like we're in this new creation space, and I definitely feel that things. I'm actually seeing something, some vision there to work towards, but we're still carrying that baggage. and there's still a lot of things yet to unfold over the next few months, particularly around this Saturn-Pluto conjunction, because it was so heavy coming right into the Christmas period. And I think the last show we had was around the beginning of December, but even just the lead up to Christmas, it wasn't a very joyous kind of Christmas this year, particularly being in Australia and moving interstate into the fire zone kind of area, not directly, but very close to it. There was there was a really, really heavy feeling of people feeling that we are in apocalyptic times now. And now it's, okay, we've had some rain since then, and there's still quite a few fires, but, you know, roads are starting to open and people are going, okay, well, what are we going to do now?
And you've had some extreme weather, right?
How are we going to fix this?
Torrential rain, some hailstones, crazy.
Yeah, I flew into Canberra from Darwin, I think, on the really heaviest air quality day, and the sky was just orange. It was smoky. I brought quite a few of those P2 masks with me. You just couldn't breathe. And then, yeah, just the other day, 2 weeks later, we had hailstones, like, you know, cricket balls, and 2,000 calls for help. I was in an area where there was no hail, thank goodness. But, yeah, a lot of people had lost their cars, and, yeah, it was caused a lot of damage.
I think what people are feeling is this deep need to transition into something better. That there's a lot of blame going around, right? So anyone who's at the pinnacle of society in a leadership position has fingers pointing at them from every direction. And you can see in the chart, like, you've got Uranus standing way over in Taurus with all these heavy planets in Capricorn, and Taurus, you can see it right over that side is like a big finger pointing towards the leaders, towards presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, whatever. This is like time to pull your shit out. It's like time to get something sorted. What people are noticing is corruption on a big scale. It's not just a conspiracy theory for conspiracy theorists and tinfoil hat people. This is this is really like when we see reactions from people, everyone's pointing to the top. Well, somebody's not done something right, and somebody's got to take the blame, and somebody has to go, and things have to change. And this is the theme of all of it. Whatever the story is, wherever you are in the world, there is a story, there is something happening, and it's to do with people at the top. And whether you talk about like, are we heading into a war, or are we heading into, it's not the war itself, it's the corruption behind it that people are upset about, and not the actual issue, but what is going on underneath, and who's involved, and why, and what are they doing, and what are they gaining from it. And this is what most people are affected by. I think with apocalyptic stories and cataclysmic events, people are immune to hearing more of it. But what people are looking for is, where does this start, and who is to blame, and could we find out who and why and what they're up to and what's the motive. And it's not really conspiracy theory anymore. It's like there's obviously conspiracies that you can't deny, right? There's conspiracies all the time, but what people are looking for is, how can we overcome this?
Corruption. I think people are looking for accountability too. It's not so much about conspiracy theories. It's like the energies are crying out for accountability, and now people are starting to like hold people in power positions to it. It's like people are going to start like holding people's feet to the fire, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Responses, like if you look at any news page of any major news item and you read the comments, there's conflicting opinions, yes, but there's a lot of what didn't they do, what should they have done going on. Instead of just accepting, sitting back and reading news, people are like putting their input, their viewpoint in. And I think that's coming through because we look at the nodes, right? We've been saying this, that it's the South Node time in Capricorn, which is contrary to the 1284 chart, where it was the similar thing, but the North Node. And this time we have it as a South Node, and the North Node being in Cancer. And as the nodes are shifting and moving, we're getting really nitty gritty into the details and what's going on. What are people's objectives here? Why are they in those positions? How did they get to those positions? What qualifications did they have to get there? How were things manipulated to work in their favor? And what have we been missing all our lives that was the piece of the puzzle that we didn't get? And that's what's coming out in any situation, in any story.
Yeah, and the dynamic and how it's approached, if you watch over the last 2 weeks, it's been shifting. Because if you think about it, we've been in a previous Saturn-Pluto cycle for so long. And as Saturn came around, it's been behind Pluto. So whenever you have something like a lunar cycle, which kicks things into gear, the moon will always cross Saturn. So we build something, we put structure into something, we, take action towards something, and then boom, the moon crosses Pluto and it all gets torn to shit. Well, now we have the opposite dynamic. Something gets torn to shit and then we get to build something better, or we get to demand accountability. So it's there's been a reverse in the way that it's been happening, and we're going to see it play out not just in the masses, but we're going to see it in ourselves. It's kind of like a wide rippling effect.
Absolutely.
And we're still also in that shadow period of Neptune's direct now, but it's still in its shadow period up until sort of end of March. So usually when the top is really dirty, there's a diversion, and it gets to be pushed down and blamed to other people, but people aren't taking that. People are looking directly at the top going, no, we don't believe the diversion. We want accountability.
That's what I think a lot of the current news is. I think a lot of it's diversion, especially the war stuff and the viruses and da-da-da-da-da. My personal opinion is this is actually such a fortuitous time, because we have a very powerful new moon happening right now that's closing so many multiple cycles at once. We have all the planets direct. A lot of them are out of shadow. Not all of them, but most of them. It's such a powerful time to charge forward, or to look forward and to not look back. So it's they're trying to kind of grasp us and pull us back into those fear-based control patterns that they've had us in for so long. But we've got to break free out of that, so they can just try, and that's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't
do it.
work.
No, it doesn't work anymore.
When Jupiter was square Neptune, and we had befuddling thoughts about what is going on, we were blindsided constantly. We don't know what is happening, what's the truth. And as Jupiter goes forward and it enters Capricorn, it's more vigilant, and it's making a sextile to Neptune now. So we don't get so fogged by what we see. We start sorting it out into piles and pieces and saying, okay, look at this big pile over here. This should go to the charity shop because this isn't any good to us anymore. And this pile over here, we can resort. And this pile over here, is something that it's recyclables maybe. Maybe we can put it into the recycle heap. And then this pile is just trash. We don't want it anymore. So this is it's more clarity. It's easier to see, easier to sort out. So that goes for those people as well that are in those positions. We don't want you anymore. And we can see that you're trash. And okay, you can be recycled into something else. But this guy over here, he's no good. We got to give him away. We got to send him somewhere else. He's not going to be able to work for us anymore. And that's what people are shifting towards. How do we rebuild all this?
And that's the thing, like your point with Jupiter, I love it because Jupiter is the greater benefic, and that is the benefit of Jupiter in Capricorn this year. Even though it's not, the most comfortable place for Jupiter, we don't get like the instant gratification from him like we do in some signs. We kind of have to work for it, but he still has that expanding influence. So as he travels through Capricorn, it's going to be like, seriously, you don't see that this is corrupt or this is out of integrity or this person is like, it's going to expand on it and make it bigger. And not that I feel like it's going to force awakening on people, but it's going to be really like clear cut. Like this is okay. This is not okay.
Yeah. I mean, like if you were to take everything in your house and sort it all into piles, you would have a big pile of things that you want to keep and a big pile of things that you want to throw away, right? You're sorting out, let's say you take out everything that you own and you put it into piles. Someone walks in and they go, what's going on here? And they can automatically see, this is a keeping pile and this is a pile that's going to get thrown out. You can see just by looking at it. It's not difficult. So that's kind of like where we are on a psychological level. Psychologically, we're there. We're not physically there. We're psychologically there. That's good enough. It's a good enough start. And now that we've got Saturn in the sidereal chart has moved like as of the last 24 hours into sidereal Capricorn. It's kind of like the huge tidy up now. So tropical and sidereal has now come together with the Saturn, which is the ruler of Capricorn. There's some organization. There's some actual like making order out of chaos now with the major conjunction past. This order out of chaos is now like a responsibility that everybody has to psychologically keep up with somehow or other. If we see the truth, we're duty bound to do something with it. Whatever we see, we see the truth. If we see the truth, we can't just sit back and relax and go, oh well, we're duty bound to do something with that. So,
the energies don't allow you to just sit back anymore.
No.
It gets super uncomfortable and you get kind of prodded and smacked by the universe, and it doesn't feel right to be quiet. Whereas years ago, if you saw the truth, it felt safe to be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you didn't want to stand out or be like that crazy person with the tinfoil hat. Like, you know what I mean? But now it feels like you have to speak your truth. It's all about, I think this new Saturn-Pluto cycle, it's about integrity and inner authority and being the voice for what needs to anchor into the new and the corrupt that needs to stay in the past.
Yeah, it's all about being authentic.
Yep.
And acting with integrity.
The good vibrations of Capricorn.
Yes.
Because we need the South Node to clear out kind of those not so good vibrations like corruption.
And now we got like this new moon. So this new moon is signaling something kind of awesome, really, because it's falling in Aquarius, and we have a point in Aquarius that we're watching since 2018, right, Megan? There was an eclipse there.
Yeah, it was at 4 degrees, which is exactly the same degree that the new moon was. So when you have a new moon, it resets things and it clears cycles. So a lot of us, if we look back to July 27th of 2018, we all started a cycle that probably didn't feel so good. That was a really heavy eclipse. It was a lunar eclipse. The moon was conjunct the South Node with Mars retrograde. So that makes you feel like you're stuck. You can't move forward. You want to move forward, but you can't. And we had a giant fixed square at that same time too, with Uranus in Taurus and Jupiter in Scorpio. The really kind of freaky thing is so many planets have returned to the exact same position they were at that eclipse for this new moon. We had Chiron at 2 degrees Aries. We have Chiron at 2 degrees Aries right now. We had Taurus at 2 degrees, or Uranus at 2 degrees Taurus. We have it back there again. Neptune is at 16. It was 16 then. And we have the sun square Uranus at the time of the new moon. Well, we had the sun square Uranus at that eclipse. We had the moon square. It's so many things kind of like ricocheting from that eclipse. I did a post about it last night. It's like the summer of 2018, we want it to move forward. We want it to move into the new. We want it to like be free, to kind of be like, you know, wholeheartedly invested in our authenticity, but we couldn't. It was like we were pulled back. We were stuck. The way forward, it just seemed too far away, or, you know, these personal wounded issues started bubbling up with the Chiron and Aries, because that was our first taste of it. And it's now all starting to come full circle, that it can be resolved and cleared away, that we can move forward. We can embrace authenticity. We can integrate it all. Yeah, it was a lunar eclipse.
And then Mars was retrograde on the moon at the time.
Yeah.
So Mars was doing like it. We were trying really hard to get something in motion,
and we just couldn't.
Yeah.
And everything that held us back at that point has been following us for the last 18 months. And it's
so everybody thinks about what has happened since July 2018. So July 2018 was a trigger, a sort of door opening into an awareness that we could do nothing about, and that has been following us. It's been pulling us down. And today is the day that we can start really working on those things that happened since July 2018, or what we saw in July 2018. So it might be difficult right now to think what it was for each and every person. But as you go away from the show, think about from July 2018, what was it that you could not move forward with? And whether it's on a personal level, whether it's on a more, you know, global level, what was difficult to move forward in July 2018? And think of that from today, you can start moving forward with that very same issue. That's a really good signal for like how we're going to step into 2020.
Mm-hmm. And I think I'm not saying it to sound dramatic, even if it's on a subtle level, a really good indication is something that feels or felt like at that time and forward, it was breaking your heart. Because with the giant square that we had the sun and the North Node conjunct in Leo. And it's like, we want it to move forward wholeheartedly into that, you know, positive, authentic self, but we couldn't. And that can be heart-wrenching. Even if it's subtle, like it sounds dramatic, but it can be subtle. So anything that has followed you and really felt like it's holding you back or it's breaking your heart, that really can give you some insight into what's been kind of cycling for the last 18 months.
And just prior to that lunar eclipse, there was a solar eclipse at 20 Cancer.
Yep, there were 3 eclipses that summer. It was 20 Cancer, 4 Aquarius, and 18 Leo.
So that 20, so was it in July or June 2018? There was a solar eclipse.
It was July. It was early July.
Early July, right? So I think it was like the 4th of July or something. So at 20 Cancer, which is where we want to move towards, but we couldn't. And now we can. So that's where we're taking steps. We're taking steps to move forward to where we wanted to be in 2018. And this is the way things work. I mean, the way things time, we don't move forward in one giant step. We see something, we try, we get pushed back, we move forward again, then we get sidetracked, and then eventually we can solve an issue. So these are the issues that were apparent at that time. And there was so much going on in 2018.
It really was. And then 2019, there was so much going on. And with the eclipse at 20 degrees Cancer that you mentioned, that's what we wanted to move into, but we couldn't. And then we start seeing like why we're being held up with the lunar eclipse and so on. that 20 degree of the Cancer Capricorn axis has been so activated over the last couple years. So over the spring, when you had Saturn turn retrograde at 20 degrees, and then in the fall, you had Pluto go direct at 20 degrees Capricorn, the exact opposite point. It's another push and pull that leads back into those eclipses of the summer of 2018. It's like we've been stuck in that same kind of like goop forever. It feels like forever. It's not been, but you know, just like how it kind of feels like January 74th. It feels like it's been forever.
So we were looking at how in April 2018 we had a major event that seemed deeper on a subconscious, subliminal level, was the burning of Notre Dame. That was April 2018, right?
2019.
2019. And Saturn was there.
With the South Node.
With the South Node at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we connected it to Jupiter and Ceres, didn't we?
We did. I'm trying to look at my notes on that.
So it's the connection between 14 Sagittarius and 20 Capricorn.
And the Mars is at 14 Sag right now. Which is kind of interesting. You say the connection between 14 Sag and 20 Capricorn.
Yeah. So when Notre Dame burned, Ceres, the asteroid of which symbolizes our sustenance, and it symbolizes a sort of motherly love, like earth Gaia type mother figure. And then
but she also represents a lot of sorrow as well, because she's Persephone's mother. And when Persephone was abducted by Pluto, Ceres kind of went into a rage and stopped producing, would create storms and stop producing food, essentially, or the harvest would stop.
Yeah. So Ceres represents the harvest, and harvest festivals used to be about Ceres, right? That's what they were giving, like every harvest in the ancient times. You'd give the first part of the harvest, or the first bread baked from the harvest, offer it to Ceres. She was considered like the goddess that everybody would thank in return for getting food. And as she has that tendency to get very outraged and enraged, she demands things to be corrected. She demands things to be of right, or she will provide no service. And she was at 14 Sagittarius when Notre Dame burned, which was the station that Jupiter retrograded to and stationed direct. And that it was a religious symbol of the divine feminine. And as the divine feminine moves into Capricorn, we see her taking stock of all the injustice done. And we were saying how, we noticed that Notre Dame, being Our Lady, the Church of Our Lady, was a very sort of like significant event, how it burnt down from the spire to the ground. And it was connecting Ceres with Jupiter in the sign that Jupiter rules. So she was visiting the Lord of the palace, the king of the palace at the time, where Jupiter stationed. And then Jupiter moves forward, Ceres moves forward, and they go to the palace of Capricorn to meet the ruler of Capricorn, Saturn. to discuss with Saturn what is to be done.
And where was she at the conjunction? She was right there with them.
Yeah, she was right there
right there at 21. And it's interesting too, because if you go like into pre-Greek mythology, she wasn't just the goddess of the harvest, she was known as the Great Mother. Well, when you start talking about like the age of Aquarius and the Mayan calendar and all that, what do they refer to the Milky Way as? The Great Mother. So
yeah,
that just shows the significance of this lady right there. And then you start looking at some of the other like smaller cycles that are at play. We have Mars and Venus, so the masculine and the feminine energies, doing their first quarter square after they went conjunct over the summer. So Mars is at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, where Ceres was when Notre Dame burned. All right. So now let's look at Venus. Venus is one of the archetypes of, the feminine energy. She is about to conjunct Neptune, which is the higher octave of Venus. So yes, they're kind of in a battle right now, but she's much more strongly placed. She's exalted and she's conjunct her higher octave. So this happening after the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, after Ceres is conjunct the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, to me, it's saying like, all these twisted, and when I say patriarchy, I don't mean, like anything like gender specific. Just we've been living in this world since, the 1200s that's been very distorted and corrupt because of patriarchal systems, and it's time to come into balance.
And before we move into the age of Aquarius, we've got to unify the traditional ruler of Aquarius, which is Saturn, who's very patriarchal, with the modern ruler of Aquarius, which is Uranus, who has it's basically no gender. He has no genitals because his genitals were cut off, right? So as and they're related. Ceres and Uranus are related.
Yeah, Saturn needs to come to terms with daddy's sex change. That's what needs to happen.
But it also means, yeah, but it's true. It's true. It also means that the Great Mother, who's crossing the galactic center and going into this patriarchal world, she is sorting out balance problem between this male and female energy. We can't go into an Aquarian age until we've sorted out that we have accepted the terms that that the patriarchal leader is a kind of, it serves its purpose, but it's not the only type of leadership. We must be honoring the other side as well. We must be honoring our intuitive side. We must be honoring our maternal instincts. We must be honoring all the feminine principles before we can enter the age of Aquarius. And today, having this new moon in Aquarius with Ceres on one side, with Saturn, Pluto, and Uranus over the other, waiting in Taurus, which is Earth, which is what Gaia represents as well, waiting for the meeting to happen so that we can be on equal terms. And if everyone is on equal terms, and if everyone understands that we don't just have this patriarchal system to govern ourselves, we don't just have a system of religion without spirituality. It's the spirituality that must exist, or it's nothing. It means nothing, right? So whatever your belief system is, if it's just a vessel without anything in it, it's not going to serve anyone or anything. It must have what's supposed to go in it. The elixir of life. It must have the river flowing. I mean, if Aquarius, the water bearer, is pouring water between two vessels, those two vessels are the male and female. We've got to be able to understand the balance between the two. So what's coming down, what is being held to account here is that the system that we've had in place since 1284 is has reached its pinnacle, has reached its end, and it hasn't taken into consideration anything to do with our spirituality, our depth, our creativity, our inner understanding, our inner knowings. These have been ruled out. It's like they haven't been allowed to exist. From the education system all the way to the political system, it's not allowed to exist. Medicine, education, everything. It's like, where is it? So it's got to be put back. And this is a very sort of like diplomatic trip through the signs to get there, to make sure that these things are all in place. And we're getting from today, we're getting a sort of like insight, would you say, like a trailer to the movie and how that would work. And I think that whole royal issue is another thing. You know, it's the exiting of a royal family. Two people, a man and a woman, who want to exit the royal family. That is also part of the story, whether you like it or not. It's about that. It's about having these two people being equal, and one is male, one is female, and it's very symbolic. Although I won't really go into that story because the MSM has done too much already. Yeah.
But you're exactly right, though. And if you look at the age of Aquarius is being ruled in contemporary astrology by Uranus, well, as you said, Uranus is genderless. It's not about, male above female or vice versa. It's not about, squash the patriarchy so women can take over the world. It's about a place for both in equal measure. And that's what's been lacking for so long. And it's really interesting if, I can't remember the old school name for it, but there's like a modern approach to the numerology of astrology called step astrology. And it's where each degree, 0 through 11, is ruled by a certain sign. So if you take the step approach, 4 degrees is actually ruled by Aquarius. And the key to it is, because it's like a story that unfolds as the degrees unfold, it's about I belong. That's what anything that breaks down to a 4 is about. And if you think about it, if the masculine, the feminine, the outsurging and the receptive energies are held in equal measure and each has its own place, then everybody truly does belong somewhere. Everybody is valued somewhere. There's worth somewhere. It makes sense that this is a time where we move forward into the new and we recognize that everything belongs in its own way. There's nothing more important than the other. Whereas we've been so entrenched for centuries where, this doesn't belong and that doesn't belong. And it's nice to see that changing.
Hey, Jules, I thought you were going to say something.
I was going to say something just in terms of Saturn being in traditional astrology being the boundary planet with 1 foot in this world and 1 foot in the other. So in terms of Aquarius energy being sort of like a stranger in a strange land as well, we are between boundaries at the moment. We still have that vision of moving forward. So it's a really quite an interesting time, especially I think there's been a big shift today with the new moon. Like, I've definitely felt it. But it's really interesting just going, I know we don't want to talk about the royal family, but it's something that we did speculate back in April. I think we did one of the shows back then, and we spoke about how the Saturn-Pluto sort of conjunction is heavily tied into the monarchy, into the British monarchy. And I think it was something that I didn't expect with Harry and Meghan sort of leaving the family, leaving the royal family, but it was definitely an interesting turn. But I think there's a lot more to unfold in that space as well, with the breakdown of the monarchy, possibly. Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, I think what we see in the news. So I was watching what happens when Mercury goes to this degree of 4 degrees Aquarius, and to see what kind of first parts of what pieces of news could happen that will signal what the bigger picture might look like. And there was a story about a solar panel car, and the patent that was filed, I don't know, a couple of years ago, was for a solar panel car that could recharge itself using solar panel. And if you had excess power in that car that you didn't use up, you could use it to power your house. And it could also be charged as an electric car. And the thought that these kinds of inventions, however many different types of alternative transport inventions have been patented before, they were always quashed. They could never come out because oil, which is ruled by Pluto, oil was backing the currencies. So as everything came off the gold in the banking system, oil was backing the US dollar, and everyone had to buy oil in US dollars. So if anybody came up with any invention that did not that surpassed the need for oil, the pattern was quashed. And this was a kind of system that was put into place, and that system is the sort of pinnacle of its end. You know, it's like, well, from the 1970s until now, that's the system that we've had in place. But what if that system was coming apart? What if the banking system, which is backed by oil, was changing? And what would happen to all those inventions, all those patents? Would they be released? Would they be allowed to come out? Because that would be an Aquarian age. You can't have an Aquarian age where inventions get quashed because they're not allowed. So Aquarius is about new things. It's about new technology. It's about new inventions. It's about creative thinking. It's about thinking outside the box. And if that Mercury conjunct the 4 degree mark, where this new moon is, from 0 to 4, squaring Uranus, is a signal to what we're going to see. Then how I see things unfold is that these new inventions will be allowed to take off. So we can see alternative power, alternative transport, alternative different types of things in different fields. We've never been allowed to progress. It's been stopped at the top. We can't progress. So if these things could be allowed, that would be a new age already. And we're working towards the date of 21st December 2020 as a date where we formulate an entry moment into an Aquarian age. Maybe not fully, because not all the transpersonal planets will be there, but with Jupiter and Saturn conjunct at 0 Aries, it's a very big, it's like all we've seen is through a window, but now the door opens. It's just up to us to walk through. And these are the kinds of things that in the news that I was looking for. So in the last week, Tesla has led a rocket launch that is under NASA, but Tesla was obviously leading it. So Tesla and NASA coming together, looking at space travel, testing rockets with people on board to see if it would work, testing parachutes, things like that. Those kinds of things are now open, whereas they weren't before. I'm not sure how everyone believes or the story of the man walking on the moon, but not everyone believes it. So why doesn't everyone believe it? Well, because there's a lot of hokey pokey going on around the story. How come we haven't had like a growth of space travel since the 1960s? You know, why didn't we have anything since the 1980s? Like what is it that has stopped us? So in order to open to a new age, we've got to be able to have things that have been invented. Like even if teleportation has been patented, why aren't we using it? You know, someone's put a control in place. Oh, you can't use it. Oh, you can't have this. You can't have that. We can't do this because it will ruin the system that we've put in place. But now those systems will start to come down. That's what I see. And every time we see planets enter Aquarius and make a hit on a trigger point, we can see a snippet, a story, something reported. So you can see where we're heading, almost like this is a window looking through, you know, the picture book, the brochure for the age, you know, flicking through the brochure and seeing the pictures and going, okay, it's going to look like that a bit more. It's going to look a bit more like this. You know, you don't know what you're going to get when you go on holiday, but if you look at the brochures, you're going to get an idea. So that's kind of what I'm doing, is looking for news that represents those things on those specific dates. And that's, moving forward stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just going to unfold throughout 2020. So we're going to see all those snippets as you talk about. And then when I don't think the age of Aquarius is going to come into full effect until probably around 2024, 2025, when Uranus moves into Gemini as well. Neptune's out of Pisces. All the transpersonal planets have shifted into the new age. But from, I think this year specifically, we are going to see a lot of snippets of what's to come.
Yeah, and I don't think it's all about just technology either. That's just one side of it.
No, it'd be societal changes as well.
Yeah. It's just glimpses, what you can see.
Well, and this year you have on the spring equinox, which is, you know, the astrological new year, you have Saturn moving into Aquarius. So you have a new year and Saturn moving into the sign of the new age. Then you're going to see it retrograde back out on July 1st, which is funny because this new moon that we have today, it's clearing so many major cycles, and it's clearing the last lunar cycle that we had, which is the last time we will see a southern set of eclipses in Capricorn. We have one more Capricorn eclipse to go, but the sun will be with the north node, so it's not going to be as intense or as heavy as it has been, but Saturn will retrograde back into Capricorn 4 days before we have the Capricorn eclipse in the summer. So then we're going to have, you know, a little taste of the Saturn Capricorn thing again until we go direct and we move forward. And then on the solstice, that's when we have Saturn and Jupiter. So it's not even just that Saturn is going to move into Aquarius twice this year. It's happening on a pretty pivotal gateway, which is kind of neat.
So Danny wanted us to talk about something to do with health issues, right? What the fuck is going on with all this, like, bones, teeth, exhaustion, what else? Dizziness. She mentioned quite a few symptoms that people have experienced. I don't know if in the chat there's a lot of people that have experienced so heavy physical symptoms. Okay, the skin, definitely bones, aches and pains. And I would say this is not just like from an astrological perspective. I think there's a lot of changes in I don't want to use climate change, but it is something to do with our environment. And from an astrological perspective, we've got all the heaviness in Saturn, which rules bones and teeth, right? And Danny's back. Oh my God,
Danny's just come back in at the right time when we're talking about the health issues.
Well, perfect timing then. We had complete power outage for basically the entire island. that power went down apparently, or at least Marcelforn. I don't know. All I know is I got like into my spiel, started my rant. No power. So I'm back. I'm
You should
back.
see our faces.
What
You
they
should have
miss?
You should have seen how like our faces were like, oh, what do we do now? Do we what? How what? Do we? Is she coming back? Do we carry on? And then we just. All right. Well, let's carry on then.
On we go. I knew you guys would be able to wing it without me. I knew it would be okay. Quick, just side note before we dump back into this, John, I need you to make me co-host again so that I can record. And I'm going to need to get the recording off the show because, of course, I have no recording to put up. So. Okay, going to record anyways, even though I've missed most of it. Hi, everyone. Sorry. I'm sorry. So, please continue.
All right, Jules, go ahead. You got some information in the health side.
Yeah, well, we really just started about the pains, the health issues, I guess, in the last few weeks. For me, I've got Sagittarius on the 6th house, so which is the house of health, and I've had so many hip issues. It's crazy. I feel like I've aged 10 years in the last month. And my eyes have gotten really bad in the last few weeks as well.
Okay, thank you, because I didn't know if that was just me. Like, you get to the point where I turned to Anne and Gail in England and was like, I need full-on glasses now. Like, this is not about just needing them to read. I'm to the point now where I need glasses. Like, I literally, you're in the airport and I'm sending my girls to read the departures things because I can't even read it. I don't know.
I'm getting to the point just before the show when I need glasses to find my glasses.
That's actually a running joke in our house.
Yeah.
Is it that Mommy needs glasses to actually go find her glasses? No, okay, so I'm really interested in this because the one thing that keeps coming up, so for example, you said eyes. A lot of people, the whole thing with the eyes, and again, suddenly it's we've talked about things overall for the last couple of years, physical stuff and eyes failing seemingly, but suddenly in the last couple of weeks. Same thing with the hips. Like this has been an issue that kind of comes and goes, but it seems that in the last 2 weeks, it was like everyone I've been speaking to, even my kids, like I've literally, both my boys are walking around holding the small of their back saying, oh, Mommy, my back really hurts. And Logan will go and move quickly and go, oh, my back. Okay, he's 12. When my old back is hurting, you go, okay, well, I'm just old. But when even the kids are having these issues, that's when you know this is a lot more than just something that's coming up because I'm old and infirmed.
Did you hear about Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
That's Cosmic Man. That is like a star that's like seems to be on the verge of supernovaing, and there has been some weird blasts coming from that region in space, and now we can pinpoint like our geomagnetic shield, which is down because of our sun, which is at a solar minimum, which it's already been told to us that the sun changes our body, and now we're getting like gamma rays coming in. I think there's something to do with that as well. And
we've had gravitational waves, and we know that there's all this. In the last year, we've had so many events that have been discussed. So, like gravitational waves, there have been huge energy bursts. There have been all of these things that they're seeing. So, yeah, this is these are major events, and they have to play into this somehow. Like when we talk about things like the physical. when we talk about the physical, when we're talking about all this energy that's coming through, how does that play? And I often wonder, and maybe you guys can explain it to me. When we talk about things like, for example, Betelgeuse is a major star in our sky. Like, this is one of our really prime stars, if you will. Something like that, all of a sudden going nova, if in fact that's what it's doing, which it looks like it is. How does that affect, even in the astrology, if we're looking at it from the electric universe, right? That has to have a major effect physically, not just on the planet, but on us as well. These aren't little blips that we're seeing like this. These are astoundingly huge events, if that's what's taking place.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, there was some correlation to another star. It didn't go supernova, but it did emit some rays, which is related to the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. I'd have to have a look at it again, but I
do remember that, but I can't remember what star it was.
There was something, yeah, that went supernova or something similar around that time.
And it's interesting because when we look at the major amount of earthquakes. So like Turkey, 6.8 earthquake last night. And if we have all these waves that are coming in, we're seeing major geophysical, like earthquakes, volcanoes again erupting all over the place, etc. We're seeing the storms. You know, when the whole of Spain just got slammed with storms and record-breaking waves.
Going into the earthquake stuff, it could be worth pointing out that this star that's about to supernova, Betelgeuse, is in the Orion constellation. Orion is a sub-constellation of Taurus. Where's Uranus right now?
In Taurus.
So we've been seeing a lot of earthquakes with Uranus and Taurus. So it could be connected. They could be working together.
Okay, and Uranus is also electrical, right?
So the North
again,
Node.
Oh, interesting.
So, you know, like we've had all this eclipse energy on the nodes, right? So our North Node, which is going from Aquarius, from Cancer into Gemini, is so Betelgeuse is in the tropical chart. It's in 28 Gemini, and our South Node is going there. So by May, by the eclipse, by the next eclipses, the North Node is going to conjunct Betelgeuse in the summer when we have these eclipses. So if we've got all the energy and we've got like the nodes being our doorways to what's coming in and what's going out, then those energy bursts that they've identified coming from that area where Orion is the exact area where our North Node is. That's energy coming in. Astrologically, we've always just talked about energy coming in, but we never had like scientific astronomical proof of energy coming in.
Like we do right now.
They've got it. Yeah, now they got the technology to see that, to measure it. We're getting charts for the first time. We've never had these charts before. You know, these pictures, these you know, people who are watching space are now saying, oh, well, it looks like there's two black holes merging together. Well, they could never see that before. It's only now that they can. And it just so happens that this is the area that is our North Node. And it being, you see, our galactic center in Sagittarius is directly opposite. And our South Node is going over the galactic center. as Betelgeuse is on the opposite side from us. Okay, so this is we're
talking like a polarity?
Yeah, we're supposed to be going through the center of this space as it's hitting us from up and down, or left to right, whichever way you want to look at it, because there's no north south out in space, right? So we're right in the center of some major energy going on, and of course it's going to affect us. Of course it's going to affect us mentally, psychologically, physically, spiritually, even. So I'm just saying, like because we only now have the data to say that, so this is going on. We don't know. We don't have any measurable data from previous eons that say, okay, well, that's exactly what happened when the North Node was over here, and then it's exactly what happened when the North Node was over there. It didn't. We didn't have that. But I can pretty much say for sure our physical effects are getting heightened by space energy. And if we look at the positions of these phenomena in space, then yeah, they're matching exactly to what we see astrologically too.
Because we're seeing the reports, May, June, Sagittarius A. All kinds of reports. Sagittarius A is doing weird shit. Really, really weird shit that even astrophysicists are going, what the fuck is going on over there? Because, that's just totally fucked up. And now we've got Betelgeuse doing the same thing. I'm going to paint my uneducated picture, right? Sagittarius A, Betelgeuse, both doing weird ass fucking shit. And you're saying the North Node is pointing towards Sagittarius and the South is Betelgeuse? If I just reversed that?
Reversed it.
Okay. So we've got that polarity, and if we talk about magnetic polarity, and if we're stuck in between these two major events that are going on, then that, on a purely everything in the macro and the micro going down, that polarity is pulling us. And I would assume that's what I get from what you're saying, is that you've got this polarity of both pulling us in both different directions, affecting us from both different directions. And that's got to have intense physical ramifications, like what we're feeling and all, because we ourselves are magnetic and we have our own
if
poles.
You think about it, like when there's a solar minimum, people are shorter. You see the heights of doorways in those days. They're like, people must have been 4 foot or had to stoop to get in that doorway. People were 4 foot, 4'3" is like an average height. And then if you notice how there's like last two generations, people seem really tall. Like compared to all my family members, my son is the tallest.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a tall family. Like our male and female are within the 5 foot region. We only have very few over 6 foot. But it just seems like everyone's families, their teens and their kids that are in their early 20s seem to tower over everyone else. Now that could be, hormones in the food, and it could be all kinds of other environmental stuff. But it is actually said that, when we have a solar minimum, people are shorter. And when we have a solar maximum, people are taller. We just came to the end of a solar maximum, and sure enough, people are taller. So if that is just one factor, that's affecting growth hormones, that's affecting bone structure, that's affecting, genetics, DNA, everything. Then what if more than the sun and more than the magnetic shield can handle, more than our planet, our Earth energy frequency can handle, there's more than that. There's cosmic thing, Of course, it goes without saying. It's reasonable to assume that they affect.
You consider the size of these too. Like that was, I was watching a video talking about showing the size of Betelgeuse compared to our sun. And it was like, here's our sun, here's our solar system. Betelgeuse is the size of our solar system, up to encompassing Jupiter. Okay, so
right.
that much bigger. And of course, then you have Sagittarius A is like, so these are massively, and we know that. We know that when you talk about just basic magnetics, the more powerful magnet affects the less powerful magnets. So with all this, what we're seeing going on with obviously there's these massive waves coming in. There's these massive events playing out on these much more powerful stars. There's going to be the echo down that's going to come through, and especially if we're caught in the middle of it.
Yeah, and if these are the forces that can change the physical, then I think it's also reasonable to assume that they can change the metaphysical. And it could be that our Mandela effects are also metaphysical. I throw that out there.
You're just going to throw that out there? Yeah, no. Look, everything in the last few weeks is again ramped right up. Like I said, unfortunately, I have no idea what you guys have been discussing for the last hour, so I may be just stomping like willy-nilly through everything. But in the last 3 weeks, we have seen another massive amount of Mandela effects. Like massive. There's another Mandela effect. 9/11 Mandela effect. This just appeared, and speechless again. We were like, no, that building didn't exist. I'm sorry, don't know what you're talking about. And in our personal lives, like everyone I'm talking to, like this is like it. The little Mandela effects that are just continuously playing out within our own personal spheres, our own little realm of existence. Things going on in your house, things going on with your family, friends, in the locality where you live, etc., etc. If we're talking, I mean, these are the kind of energies when we're talking about this kind of stuff. Is that when you get into the really, really deep stuff of talking about like gravitational waves and bending of space-time. And this is kind of massively huge in that whole concept of we try to base our reality on what we know. Do you understand? Or what we can see, hear, touch, taste, etc. We're trying to continuously get that under our grasp, and therefore we have to, everything within our perception we color by what we know. But then when we start talking about this kind of physics, we're talking about literally, like I say, gravitational waves, bending of space-time. What does that mean? In that, when we start talking about things like the metaphysical, and we start talking about things like loops and timelines and Mandela effects, etc. Yeah, quantum leaping, exactly, Amina. Quantum leaping. There's a lot of shit going on that we don't comprehend. That we're only now starting to perhaps have the science, kind of like what you were saying, Amina. We never before had measurements of this stuff, and now we're starting to get pictures. And I don't mean pictures as in literal, but when you can start looking at the pieces of information coming out, the measurements, the scientific analysis of stuff that's happening, we can start to form a different picture within our own heads of maybe what's going on.
So I'm going to make a huge leap in, in
Go
my
for it.
favorite. So if these energies are emerging in opposite sides, and if we include planets astrologically, looking at how they were relating with Sagittarius and Gemini, and then we have an Aquarian energy going on as well. So we're opening the doors. That's what we were discussing, like how the doors of the age of Aquarius open and what signs are we seeing? What pictures in the brochure? What do we see through the window on the trailer? What are we going to be expecting from this? Well, these two signs are in harmonious aspect to Aquarius. Both of them are. And if we've been seeing weird shit happen, like in our world, things that our minds don't comprehend. Okay, that's number one. We find the physical universe has let something go because suddenly non-physical attributes which our minds can't comprehend started entering our consciousness. Correct? Okay, so Mandela effects, or whatever you want to call them, is one of those things. Right? We can't explain, and our scientists can't or don't explain. Okay, that's a given. What we are seeing. Okay, now I know my pet peeve are New Age's lingo, you know, and also New Age political lingo. So I would assign like the Great Awakening as a New Age political lingo, and New Age lingo being like ascension, and you know that's sort of a biblical thing as well. But the higher consciousness kind of lingo, you know, entering 5D and then no, I'm 7D, all that stuff, right? Okay, it is in the human consciousness. It's there. Whether we like it, we don't like it, whether it sucks, whether it annoys us, whether it makes us want to puke or not, right? It's there. And if we say, okay, there's an element of something profound in all of it, although it's just taken to an extreme. It's just there's something profound in all of it that people are resonating with, and maybe going overboard with it, but they're resonating with it. And that's important, because if we think about Aquarius, Sagittarius, and Gemini, we're thinking on those levels. We're thinking on higher minded thought and new parallels, new paradigms of mind and new paradigms of consciousness. Definitely, we've got that in our astrological complex. As we're breaking down the physical structures of what we've had for the last 800 or so years, as we're breaking that down, we are opening ourselves up to something more kind of vivid, and there's contradictory information, which you can say, like, there isn't one truth, right? There's more than one truth, and both are equal. That is the kind of energy that we're seeing. And what is that giving us? Is that giving us the ability to quantum leap? Is that giving us the ability to manifest? Is that giving us the ability to see things like a holographic universe, to understand it or comprehend it with our mind? Are our minds expanding? Are our minds opening up to allow this type of information in? If our minds open up, then our conscious minds open as well to this information. So if we're opening our minds to on a conscious level, universally, we are affecting a holographic universe. We are making manifestation more apparent in our lives because we're allowing it, we're accepting its possibility. And if we're in conflict, then we get conflicting manifestations. But if we have a universal understanding of where we're going, then we'll get a faster, more comprehensive ability to make changes, however we want to make them.
Yep.
And that means that we're all part of it. And that is Aquarius. That's Aquarian energy. Humanity is all together part of something. We work together. We don't need the people telling us what to do type of energy anymore. We don't need it.
No. But everything you just said, I completely agree with 1,000%. I think that also plays such a huge part with the narratives that we're seeing being pushed at the moment. And we've talked about for the last few months, like it is like a war of narratives at the moment, and it is this or it's that. You can be this, or it's yes, or it's no, or it's black, or it's white, and there's no in between. Everyone wants you to step into a narrative, to use that to define your reality, to define your belief structure and how you are going to move forward. And there's an exceptionally strong push right now again, and I'm seeing it again in this last few weeks again, where it's like another wave of this of as I call it, they have this need of desperately trying to get people to pick a box, so that you can then define your reality by that box, define your belief structure by that box. And it's come like again and again and again. And when we talk about things like manifesting, and we talk about that concept of creating our reality, etc., that is the piece of these narratives that I find terrifying and call it truly upsetting, to see people falling into the narratives, because it's like they're put into a box and then they must stay in that box. And I'm watching more and more people, it's like they jump out of a box and directly into another box.
And whoever is controlling that narrative understands that numbers are important, because it's an equation, it's a ratio. If you've got, say, it's the 100 monkey effect, except this is now like it's going into thousands. So if you've got, 1,000 people in a population of, say, 10,000 or a million, let's say a million, you've got 1,000 people in 1 million, all looking for the same manifestation to happen. The chances are that manifestation happening are greater. And the more numbers you put into that, the better it gets, the more concrete your manifestation can become. And so what do these people know? Who's creating all of this? What do they know? They must know that numbers are important. And they must know that you can only gain those numbers if you pique people's curiosity and get them to investigate a little of the mystery. That is the hook, right? Investigate some of this mystery, and that's the hook. But what if, okay, let's say it's scientifically correct that numbers maketh the manifestation, as it were, right? Let's say numbers were part of this scientific program. Okay, I won't say program actually, because that makes it sound like it's something we've done. It's
this experiment, this thing.
like an op, right? Let's say it's not an op. Let's say it's natural. Let's say this is our universe, and we've just failed to see it until now, right? But if we all go to what is authentic and true within ourselves, which is an area you can't go wrong. You're authentic, you're true. You may contradict those people around you, but if it's authentic and it's true for you, you're sincere. You're completely sincere. You're not filling it with an agenda. Okay. If you've got an objective that is sincere, it is through your integrity, it's absolute true for you, then you go for it. The chances are it's true for most other people. And those are the things that can manifest, not someone else's agenda that you adopt, but your own real, authentic need and to move forward in your world with life. And that is, to me, if everybody went there, we'd all move forward much faster. What these ops are doing, they're proving that it's real, but they're not giving us, they're giving us an agenda superficially. It's not real, it's not authentic for us. What do we need? What do we want?
And that's this piece that I think is so important right now, and I feel it in the fibers of my being when I talk about things like going to the place where you just gonna go, doing what you want to do and making those choices. And it's like you say, when you come from being completely honest to yourself as well, and like you say, from integrity, and you have, for me, I know, like, I so need to get out of here. I need to get to a place that's green, where I've got trees, where I can surround myself. That is a driving need right now. Driving need to feel that nature and greenery around me, to be able to live and live in it. Do you know what I'm saying? When you can. And a lot of the other stuff, the stuff that was important even a year ago, is just no longer important anymore. And when you can focus and just be like, I'm not going to involve myself in this and this and this, and you can pull back to just the real basics of, like, what is your need? What is it that you know? What is it that you feel right now, and move forward into that? It leaves you less likely to be scooped up and put into a box. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, totally. And yeah, Megan has pointed out about the fixed nature of Aquarius, which is true.
Can
Megan,
you define that?
I think that's a point that we need to look at.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the words of Aquarius, which I know, that's like the motto, I know. Not so much like what you know from a belief, because beliefs, they're more mutable, they're changeable, but truth, not just knowledge, but actual, like, literal hard ground truth. Truth is truth. It cannot change. It's this or it's that. That's why it's fixed air is the ruler of I know. Because air is our mind, it's our intellect, it's how we process, and fixed does not change. Which is why we compared it to that in the chat. We were talking about how we're coming out of the age of Pisces. So the words are I believe, and a lot of the structures and the ideologies are based upon beliefs of certain systems. We're seeing those systems collapse with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that just passed. So we're going from something that's kind of mutable and shifting, and it's easy for narratives to kind of be twisted into things that are going to be a little more concrete and anchored in, because they're more truth-based and they resonate with our knowing. Just like what you were talking about a few moments ago about your need to be in certain environments. It's like a lot of us have this inner knowing where, whether we define it this way or not, it's like we know we've come so far out of the natural rhythm of the way that we need to be, because, like, we're here on Earth. We're here to be part of it, not aside from it with, our little gadgets and this and that, and think we're a superior race. So it's like a lot of us realize somewhere deep within that we need to go back in order to go forward, because we've kind of gone off the path.
Yeah. Well, there's, like I said, I can only speak from my own perception, my own perspective, right? Certain things just become unimportant, and it's kind of like what you're saying, like you say, like that externally type, the gadgetry, the constructed things. The constructed things just don't have, it's like, it's fun to watch a movie. You sit back after dinner and you sit and you put on a movie and you sit and you kind of, but it no longer has that kind of stuff doesn't pull you in the same way. And that's what I'm talking about, is this, when you drop through that and you're kind of going like, no, it is that getting back to, but it's not even getting back to, because it's not about going back to, for me, I don't feel like it's like going back. It's like moving forward. As it, apparently I can't speak English today. There's a new way of moving forward. That's what I feel. It's like there's this new way of moving forward, and I know that my way of moving forward is to get to this place. so that I can move forward and do the things that I want to do without stumbling over all the other shit, the construct shit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think there's a real urgency to change what we're doing and how we're living. Like, I've moved across the country in the last 6 months, and I just have this real urgency to go, right, what's next? I need to keep my baby safe. I need to, anything that was important last year is no longer important anymore. So I totally agree with you on that. And I just have this craving to live simply.
Yes. Yes. And maybe that's simply something where you going back to the simplicity, to what is actually real. That I know that doesn't even sound clear, but that's I know exactly what you mean. Like, there's this simplicity that we're yearning for. Things have gotten so confusing, and as the external, whether it's politically, financially, the fucking all the religious bullshit, everything else has become so convoluted, so incredibly fucked up. It's like you pull back and heavy. It's like, no, I can't. I don't know. No, I'm gonna pull back over here in my little corner and just walk away from that. Just walk away from that. Be in a place where you can just live simply and just get on with what you want to do.
Well, it's kind of like, in order to exist, you can't just be. In order to exist in our current paradigm, you need a birth certificate, you need a name, you need a date of birth, you need an email address, you need a telephone number, you need everything. You need a bank account. You need, we just need numbers and data in order to exist. But we can't just be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we not just live to be instead of all the stuff to prove we exist?
Yeah. And that's my frustration. And it's you were saying, Amin, about perception and how it's like our perception is opening and our awareness of all these things. And I think that's where a good portion of us are, in that when you're now looking at exactly what you're talking about for us moving to the UK. It's like, okay, I got to apply for my passport, and I've got to get this, and I need this piece of paper, and I need that piece of paper, and I need all these self things to prove who I am. And it's so fake. It is so completely and utterly fake that you just, I don't know. I sit back and I look at it. I'm just like, this is just unreal. Unreal. Literally, it is unreal. And your mind literally wants to almost just exclude it. Like, just be like, no, I can't. I can't play in this playground anymore. This is so not realistic. It is so ridiculous because it doesn't define me. And that's the whole thing. It doesn't define me. It doesn't define my family. It doesn't define what we want to do. Why do I have to define? And I was PayPal again is coming after me again. And they're like, oh, we got to do this. And I was like, what? You have to prove your identity. I've had this PayPal account for 10 years. I had to prove my identity to them. And one of the questions is, what is your employment? What is your employment? And then there's a drop-down list. And there's no other. There's no pick. You got to pick one of these and you have to define yourself. And I'm like, I'm not any of those things. I'm not, like, none of that even remotely defines me. But there's no other choices. So you're like, okay, so what do I do? Do I pick one and just kind of go, okay, this is kind of sort of maybe close to what I might think that I do for a living? But that is, and you're put, again, these boxes. Here's a box, tick this box. And then you got to stay in that box. You can't move outside of that box. It's crazy. It's crazy. My brain is breaking right now because it can't deal with these constructed boxes anymore.
I
Yeah,
think we
Gorf, the
spend
personhood box. The
10,000 hours.
personhood box. Perfect.
Yeah. 10,000 hours a year on all these boxes that we have to make sure are intact continuously. You can't just walk away from them. They have to be there all the time. So you can't live your life, can you? 10,000 hours a year are gone. I might exaggerate, but yeah, if I find that, you know, one app cost me 500 hours a year, I deleted it. It cost me 500 hours a year just to maintain one app because it was connecting me to people.
Yeah.
Just one form of this media it was just one. It was,
Yep.
I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because in that 500 hours a year, I could study a course. I could
learn a new language. Like,
I could write a play. I could, you know, write a book. There's so many things I can do with that would be much more fulfilling than making sure that I've responded to, you know, thousands of messages that do not mean anything to me. So things like that, you know, we've run it out of its need right now. Why are we doing it? Because we feel as if we have to. What if everyone just stops? What kind of world would it be? We just stop doing all these things.
Yeah. Amina, I keep saying that. I'm just like, couldn't we just walk in somewhere, just like sit down on the land and just be like, okay, that's it. I'm here and I'm going to do my shit and become invisible. Can we set up like an invisible barrier around you? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I keep looking at, there's a specific piece of property that's for sale in Wales that I've just fallen in love with for months. And I keep going like, I could just come with money. And I'm just I was joking because I actually went to like Google Earth and like found the piece of property and took screenshots of it. So I can see the outlines of it, the whole bit. I'm like, and then go and like, I don't know, plant crystals all the way around the outside of the property and then be like, right, you are now invisible. You put the walls up, could block off the rest of the world. We no longer exist inside this bubble. There we go. Everyone else could just go hang somewhere. Just invisible. That's it.
That sounds ideal. It sounds ideal.
And that's it. Like that's exactly how I feel. Like I just want to find this little piece of land and just
only then you can just be.
And then just be. Exactly. And be like, I'm just going to build a house on it, and I don't care about planning permission because we're invisible now. And but a lot of people that I'm talking to, like that's exactly how they feel. Like there's so many people that are in that place of they're just wanting to extricate themselves out of the system. Like they just don't no longer it's like, I do not consent, but now on like a massive level of like, I no longer in any way, shape, or form consent to any of this shit, and I'm just going to take my party and we're going to go over here and have a picnic by ourselves, and all the rest of the shit can just go away. Just walk away.
It's piffle. Absolute piffle.
Piffle. There's a good British word for you. Piffle. Yeah, I know. And I know that so many people are feeling it right now. And they have different ways of talking about it. And people have different visions of what that means for them personally. But when you break it down to the basics, it's all the same thing. And people just saying, I'm this old system. It's like you said about this whole, the Saturn and all the rest of it, and Pluto, just that old broken shit just so needs to just, that's it. It's done. It's gone. It's broken. That just needs to go away. And people just want to walk right out of it. Just slam the door behind them and just go.
Yeah, I definitely know quite a few people
Uh-oh.
just sick of the system generally, pulling their completely. Oops. Hello?
Yeah, there we go. You're back again.
Yeah, did you catch that?
Maybe repeat it again just in case.
I was just saying there's a lot of people who are extricating themselves out of the system. Various systems, like people taking their kids out of mainstream school.
Yep. Well, and I see it in. It's funny because we have a tendency to think that it's only the, I hate to use, awake people who are feeling this, and it's not true. And I'm part of the World School Project with Lainey Liberty's World School Project, and in her group. And the vast majority of the people in this group are not what I would call awake. They're not on that level of where they've figured out all the shit. They don't know what the hell is going on. And yet intrinsically, there's a lot of them who you can see it in their posts that want out. It's people who upset. Somebody said, I'm done. I can't be here in America anymore, and I'm looking at world schooling my kids just because we need to get out. We need to. They can feel this. It's like, I need to take my kids out of the system. I need to take myself out of this mess. And while they may not even be able to define it that way, I can see it. And there's a lot of people are feeling it, even if they don't comprehend it. Maybe they're thinking of it in terms of, like, for example, politics or something like that. But I honestly believe it's a lot deeper. The vast majority of people are feeling it in their gut, even if they can't define it that way. I'm just trying to catch up on the chat here. So much is going on here. So what's next, folks? So like we survived fucking so far the insanity of early January. Although I would question that sometimes, because I have moments where I'm not even sure that I'm still in the same reality anymore. What do we see coming in next?
I don't think that's just like one event, Danny. I think like it's an undertone of what is going to be continuing through 2020. Who is that astrologer? Rick? What? No. What's Rick Levine?
Yes, Rick Levine.
I like what he said. He said that Pluto-Saturn conjunction was like the bass riff for the whole entire year. So you got the bass riff come in, like dun 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 dun, 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 and it goes through the year, and you can hear it going up and down at times. It's louder and quieter. It's in the background the entire year. So until we get to December 21st, which is another level, and then you hear the bass riff fade out. So yeah, we survived. We've survived the first impact. We survived. Luckily, we're not in that upper echelons of society that it's all pointing towards. We're not there. We're not those people. If we were those people, yeah, we wouldn't be able to say, yeah, we survived it. But what we got on our mundane level was personal issues, things falling up in the air, few things falling apart, but nothing we really can't handle, right? But those people where it was pointed at, I think they can't handle it. So luckily we're not them. But it doesn't mean that because we survived it, it's over. It just means that we can see this going on in the background throughout the year. It peaks and dives, and but at least we know we're in a safer zone. Safer.
So, when we talk about eclipses and things like that, do we have and alignments. Do we have many of that kind of thing coming up this year? Besides the fuckery we just kind of went through.
Well, every 6 months, 5.5 to 6 months, you have 2 eclipses generally. This summer we have 3. It happens sometimes. It just depends. Usually it's like when the nodes have just changed or are about to change signs, because they're close enough to a moon at the beginning or the end in the other set of signs that they kind of orb in. So we'll have 3 this summer and then 2 in early December, like late November, early December. So we'll have 5 eclipses, not counting the one that we already had to come this year.
6 for the year?
Yeah.
That seems a little...
It happens. July 2018, we had 3 eclipses as well. And this new moon we talked about when you were gone, about how it's clearing one of those specific eclipses.
Yeah.
So we'll have that again this summer. We'll have all the planets go retrograde this year. We'll have Saturn kind of, switch camps and then come back to Capricorn and then go back into Aquarius again. So it's going to be an interesting year for sure. But I don't think it's going to be heavy like 2019 was, because like Amina pointed out, we're not going to have that like bass riff of like the Saturn Pluto, because that's kind of like an ominous tone to me. We won't have that rippling through. We will, but we've already had the crescendo. So we're just going to have these other kind of aspects coming in and out through the year. But it's going to be interesting. It's not the smoothest, but it never is.
Yeah.
I've heard people say, like, when is it going to die down? When is this? Da 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 da. And I've been hearing it for years. Like post 2012, this is it. Like we don't.
This is what you got to look forward to.
This is just what it is. Like you don't get like these like easy la-di-da, like the intensity, the energy, it all ramps up, and this is what we live with now. Everybody just get used to it.
This is your roller coaster.
Yeah, enjoy the ride.
Someone posted a link of this is an article, and it's like some of the great, wonderful signs they found on buildings, on businesses, like the whole thing. Unattended children will be given an espresso and a puppy, that kind of stuff. And the one that I fucking loved is it's on a fair ride. This ride only stops for emergencies. No, crying is not an emergency. And I'm like, that I think sign may actually define right here. This is the roller coaster that is your life. It's only going to stop for an emergency, and crying is just not an emergency. So no, it's going to keep going.
Danny, look at that list that Gorf just did.
Yeah, no, I saw that one. Yeah, I've seen that one. Everyone also needs to understand that those are roundabout numbers. Those are not the exact numbers. So saying 1320, 1420, 1520, that's not exactly it. For example, the Spanish flu was not in 1920. The Spanish flu started in 1916 and peaked in 1918. So, yes, it was around in 1920, but like those are rounded out numbers. Someone's gone through and very kind of cleverly rounded out the numbers, but those are not the exact numbers.
So, but would you consider those window periods?
I don't know, because we've had lots of other outbreaks too. Like, again, this is one of those things when people talk about, for example, the measles in Mexico in 1520, but they're not talking about the smallpox that wiped out most of Hawaii that happened in the 1800s. And what time of the year did that happen? So that's what I'm saying. Be very careful when you see these lists, because people love to try to create drama lists, and they'll go, oh, this and this and this and this. But like I said, so for example, I've studied the Spanish flu that took place in World War I really, really well. So yeah, I know the Spanish flu didn't take place in 1920. It didn't. It started in 1916. It peaked in 1918, and it was dying down by 1920. So be careful when you just see someone arbitrarily make lists that all look so neat and succinct. rarely are they true. And it's very easy to cherry pick data and not add in other data. Because like I said, you could talk about, they're not talking about the smallpox that went through and like, wiped out so many people. And you notice there's no talking about, for example, the smallpox and the flu viruses that wiped out most of the a good portion of North American First Nations people that happened in the 16 and 1700s at random other times. So don't get caught up. It's very, very easy to go, oh, look at that. These things are all happening. It's specific. No, it is 99% of the time it's cherry picked information. And anyone can do that and leave out other information that is just equally as important, right? We've had other massive plagues, if you will, that have taken place at other times of the year and other times of the century. So we've got, this is the whole thing. This bit with this coronavirus, and regardless of who did it, regardless of the fact is it man-made? Of course it's man-made. They're all man-made. They can play off these oh, it's a fraud, Snopes says it's not true, that it was a patented disease, all this kind of crap. The truth of the matter is, we know that SARS was. We know that H1N1 was. We know, and each one of these has been pumped out. It's blown up to be a pandemic. They sell lots of vaccines, and then it never really does anything. So people are all, this is the plague for this year. This is the, oh my God, we're all going to die. It's a pandemic. Yeah, SARS was a pandemic too. So was Norwalk. So was H1N1. So was H1N2. They play. So was Ebola. Remember? Don't you? Everyone remember what Ebola was? 2014. Oh my God, Ebola is coming to the States. Oh my God. And Zika virus. Don't remember? Zika. Oh my God, Zika virus is coming. Okay. Like I just keep saying to people, just sit back, chill out, realize the fact that this is just the same pattern they play out over and over and over again. So prep yourself. If you make sure you've got lots of good stuff to help fight infections in the house. Make sure you've got like citrus. Start making your own vitamin C. Up your dosages of vitamin C and things like this. Make sure you've got some good essential oils on hand for, I don't know, cleaning the air around you type thing. But don't fall for this. And this is just another one. And like I said, when we talk about distractions, again, isn't it just convenient that this massive outbreak has happened in China? They quarantine the whole city. Oh my God, the world is going to go all over the world. And every country in the world is pushing this agenda. We have the Trump impeachment. We have the shit with Iran. Oh, is anyone talking about Iran this week? No one's talking about Iran this week. Why? Because everyone's now talking about this virus. We have all of these. Brexit happens next Friday. Okay, we've got literally there's all these things going on, and they just have to keep everyone complete. And financial collapse, literally the finances of the entire planet are unbelievable. So this is just yet another distraction.
I think the one pattern that we have to acknowledge is that we're still drawn to drama.
Yeah.
And
very much so.
And it's being used against us.
Yep.
The fact that we are drawn to drama is used against us. What we got in our minds, what we got in the forefront of our minds, is obviously very important.
Amina, bring your microphone forward again, hon. We can't hear you very well. Your volume is dribbled down again.
The one thing that makes all this clear is that whatever we put in the forefront of our minds is obviously very important. That it has to, like, we are drawn to drama, and we're known as a species, human beings are drawn to drama. And if that's become a pattern and we're not aware of it, we need to become aware of it. Because what if we were drawn to something more productive? What if, like, I'm still thinking that we're more powerful than we know. And why are we allowing so many other things that are not relevant to us? Like, yes, it is a problem, and yes, it is a problem for some people that are experiencing it, and we're not experiencing it. Okay, what could we be experiencing? Why can't we put that potential experience in the forefront of our minds? Why are we allowing ourselves to go over the other side and look at things
experiencing their shit?
Yeah, what is the pattern there? That's a pattern.
Yeah.
And we got to get out of that pattern.
It's so true. And I literally had a conversation with Nick last night, because he said to me, he says, "Are you okay?" He says, "You're looking like you're all stressed out." And I was like, "Not stressed. I've just got so many things on my mind." And we sat down, we were discussing, obviously we've got to think about the move. We've got to think about all the stuff. I've got to get a crowdfunding campaign put together. I've got to do all these things. I've got orders for Gaia's Garden that have to go out this weekend or on Monday. And so I'm outlining them to him, right? And then I said to him, I said, I'm in this race in my head to do all these official things that have to be done, and I'm going to do this, and I've got to do that and that. Because what I really want to do is just sit down and create stuff. And I can't feel like I can't do that right now because I'm continuously distracted by this has to be done, that has to be done, this has to be done, this and this, this and this. And yet all I want to do is sit down and like have some fun and do some graphic design stuff and create some things. And I literally was like, you have that thud moment again where you kind of, again, realize to yourself, like, you're just racing through everything so that you can focus on the shit that you actually want to do. The things that you, like, literally walked by, and I had started, before we left for England, I had started drawing. I've got like a mandala coloring book, and it's sitting on a little table to the side of the kitchen, and I'd only done like 2 little central pieces of it. And I walked by, and I literally almost stopped everything last night in the middle of doing dinner and be like, oh, I want to color. Just like stop everything else. I just want to sit here for a moment, and I just want to color and do something. And that's these distractions of everything else. That's your personal
reset. When you do something, that's your personal reset.
Yep.
Because you reach the point of being ineffective at everything until you go and reset. And if you do what you really love to do, you will have a personal reset. And all those other things suddenly, like, you've done what you need to do, the other things become easy to do. They're not a burden anymore. They're not a mountain. And that little voice that tells you should be doing this instead is Saturn. That's your personal Saturn voice saying, do the thing that you're supposed to do. You've been indoctrinated with that voice, listening to that voice. We've been told to listen to that voice ever since we're little. Ever since we went to school, we're told to listen to that authoritative voice that says, you should do this. You should prioritize that. That is more important. But it isn't, because what you really need to do is sit down and reset. And that is your access to resetting who you are, like what you want to be.
Yep.
Being yourself, just being it. Switching off everything else to do just that will actually allow everything else to fall into place.
Yep.
It's the opposite of what we think. And that's the thing that I think maybe it's quite universal. We're all reaching that point where the stress factors are just too stressful now. Switch it off, leave it, go do something you really want to do, which is like the new kind of style of living that we should be opening up to, go do something that really means something, and then go do that. Because who's to say that that is more important than this? This is more important. It is part of you. It's what you want to do. It is more important, but it's been downgraded. And that's what we were talking about when you were offline, was that these are the two sides that need to come together. The intuitive side, which is more feminine, and the masculine side, which is more about productivity. Those two things are like, they must go hand in hand to have proper balance. And we keep ignoring those things we want to do, because who's giving them credit? No one's giving them credit. Right?
Yeah.
But when you do them, you reset yourself and you're happy. And then those other things are easy.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing, though, is that, like, we do the little daily reset type things, like me wanting to sit down with my coloring book and just take an hour out of and stop everything and just do that. But like I said, on that bigger scale, there's also that reset of, like we said, you want to get yourself out, go find your little piece, plop down and do what you want to do, not what they want you to do, what they insist you're supposed to do. Doing what you want, actually, truly want to do. Reset. Yes. Yes. A reset. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. The ayes have it. We pass. Well, guys, I'm going to close this off here for now. We're going to say goodbye to the live stream. Sorry I kind of dropped for almost a fucking hour waiting for the power to come back on. Delightful. Perfect timing, too. Wednesday is the Unfuck It discussion. And I'm going to get into some of the shit that happened in England while I was there. Because what the actual fuck? I'm not sure why I was supposed to go to England. It was obviously something we were doing, but holy shit. We'll talk about that on Wednesday, because, yeah, crazy shit. Movie night tonight. Tomorrow night is Unfuckers movie night, and I never did get the poll out, so I've made the executive decision that we're going to watch The Life of Brian this Sunday. In honor of Terry Jones, who passed away this week, I was like, no, Life of Brian has been on the list on the poll for a couple of weeks now, so I've made the executive decision that we're going to watch The Life of Brian tomorrow night. John, we're watching The Life of Brian, okay? So yeah, that's tomorrow night. So I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. I want to say thank you to Amina and Megan and Jules, and I really appreciate it when you guys come on and we have such good conversations. It's so much fun. And we will get back into the generational stuff. We'll have to replot out dates again for the generational stuff and get that organized so we can get back on track. We're only 8 months behind on that one. We can fix it. We have the ability. Okay, I want to say goodbye to everyone. I'll talk to you guys all later. Ciao.
Bye.